All right. How's everyone? Good? Fed, watered, relieved?
Hot.
Hot?
Hot. Yeah.
Hot.
So it is hot. I thought it was going to be cold. Yeah. Yeah.
It's like 24 hot. Yeah.
Yes, I think yesterday it was 35 in Brisbane,
Which is our winter, yeah.
the last day of winter.
Yeah, last day
yeah.
of winter.
Yeah. But that's very unseasonal.
Yeah.
I mean, 24 would be normal for this time of year.
Yeah.
So it's a record.
Yeah.
Yes, so
People who say global warming isn't happening just need to come to Australia for a while. All right. We're going to change tack now a little. Mary and I have some personal interests in channeling and other things, obviously. And this is more of a personal interest discussion with a person that we've just met in the spirit world.
well, this person has been hanging around me for a number of weeks, actually, and I apologised to him because I hadn't acknowledged him properly. I kept every time we'd sit down to channel, I'd kept getting the name Arthur all the time, and I was like, I don't know what that is, Arthur, and I'd just move on because it wasn't the spirits that were about to channel that were called Arthur, so I didn't know what was going on there. But yeah, it's Arthur. We're going to channel. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. We haven't said anything about why we're going to channel Arthur, but I think that'll become plain as we go.
We do it? No, we just do it.
We just do it, yeah. Just do it.
Hello. Thank
Good
you.
afternoon. How are you?
Very well. Very well, thank
That's
you.
good. That's good. Where are we hearing you from, Arthur?
From the other side.
Yeah. Ooh. Yeah. Yeah.
It was quite my fascination when I was on Earth,
Yeah. Yeah.
hearing from the other side.
Yeah.
So now I am on the other side.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
How long you been on the other side?
Yeah, quite some time by now.
Yeah.
Yes, but I've been quite interested in what you're doing. on
Yeah.
Earth.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Interesting, isn't it, how mediumship is treated on Earth? And it seems sometimes that it's sort of like there was a golden age of mediumship, I suppose, of which you were partly involved in, isn't there? And
Yeah, towards the end of yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
and then it
Yeah,
seems
well,
to be
I
decaying since then.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
It's certainly changed a lot. You know, my intention at my passing was that we should continue to study the art of mediumship, to continue to refine that. Mediums should become very well versed in the spirit world, and of course I dedicated a property that the college would start there.
Yeah. So perhaps we need, for the sake of our audience, to catch up with us.
Yes, yes.
To say what that property is,
Yeah, so
what that
that's
is.
what is now known as the Arthur Findlay College here in England.
Yeah.
And
Which is a college for mediums.
For mediums,
Yeah.
yes. For the study, spiritualist pursuits.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
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 And so it's quite fun to just come and talk to you a bit about that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and talk about what's changed, I suppose, for me, and what I feel the issues are on Earth with mediumship.
Yeah. So when you passed, obviously there must have been quite a lot you didn't know about the spirit world that you thought you knew.
Yes, certainly.
Yeah.
I mean,
how did you find that? Like,
how did I find passing?
Or how did you find sort of coming to the acknowledgement that, wow, there's a whole lot of things that are going on here that I sort of didn't really know were going on, between the interactions from the spirit world and what's going on Earth?
In a way, I found it exciting.
Yep.
In that it was more knowledge, and
Yeah.
I was always fascinated about the interrelation between the afterlife, I called it, and life on earth. I certainly had a strong faith in it when I passed.
Yep.
And so it wasn't a surprise to me that I continued to live. But there were certainly shocking things about how permeable the membrane is, if you like, between the spirit world and the earth life. And certainly, while I wasn't, I certainly knew that there was nefarious or,
darker spirits.
Yeah. I wasn't opposed to that belief, as many people in the movement now are.
Yeah.
I personally believed that that was a problem.
Yeah.
I knew that spirits had varying conditions, even if I didn't call it conditions at that time. I knew some were well-intentioned and some were not, just like people on earth.
Yeah. And when you look at the direction mediumship is taking now, what do you feel about that?
I suppose I'd have to answer that in two ways.
Yep.
The first, I suppose, from the perspective that I had when I passed and in the formation of the college, the dedication of the land and the home to become a place of learning and further development. I feel even my intentions there have been corrupted in a way that there's spirit influence involved in the direction that the college is heading, and that it's heading away from the truth that it's more involved in proving the spirit life to the earth than exploring the truth about the spirit life.
Yeah.
And my intention was that it would be both.
Yeah.
And now I see that the movement of mediumship on earth is becoming very limited and narrow because it's very focused on the first part of just proving that the existence of not even a spirit life, really just that life continues after death, but even then that's not very well developed.
No.
Or if it is, there's a lot of interpretation, absence of scientific process, absence of truth about what is taught happens after death.
Yeah, I agree.
The belief in reincarnation is corrupting. It's vastly corrupting the practice of mediumship. Because mediums can't receive clear answers from spirits about their experience because their pre-existing beliefs about reincarnation taint the messages they receive. Because mediums themselves are so focused on proving things to the earth, they become a servant. Even if they say they're a servant of the spirit world, they are a servant of the people on earth, in that that's the way they earn their money, that they want people on earth to believe them and to be pleased with them. And all of these things corrupt the quality and the caliber of message that can be received. These things place limits on the truth that can be received by a medium. And so I see these things as very detrimental. And of course, all of that is just the corruption of my intentions when I passed. Now my intentions are even grounder, if you like, because I've learnt so much more about the spirit life, and I would like that truth to be known on earth. And my understanding of what's possible in the spirit life far exceeds the knowledge I had when I passed. So now I would love to lead a movement where mediums can understand, not just that, where mediums can convey the fact that not just that the spirit, that life continues after death, but that growth and evolution of the human soul is an essential aspect of life, not just after death, but while on earth, and that it can be a continuation between the earth life and the spirit life. And while some spirit mediums pay lip service to that idea, they don't practice these principles in their life, and they don't educate their clients about those principles because they don't understand them themselves. And so what my issue is that there's a lot of untruth being conveyed through mediums supposedly giving proof of the afterlife. Because the messages that they convey or the philosophies that they convey in the process of giving what is proof is corrupted.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with all that for sure.
Yeah, I thought you would.
Yeah.
No, as I said, I've been quite interested in your work, particularly in the area of mediumship for a long time.
Yeah.
And as you know, there are many spirits here who owe you a debt of gratitude, who feel an immense amount of respect and honour for the service that you have given to the spirit world, not just, of course, in your very long life, but even in the last 20 or 30 years.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it, with regard to intentions on Earth with mediumship, because it's all just this, as Mary and I were discussing earlier in the week, as you know, about it's all the focus on evidentiary, rather than a focus on what is truly happening in the spirit world itself, and also what is truly happening between the spirit world and here on Earth. When you just focus on providing evidence, unfortunately, a lot of the evidence that you provide is very, very limited, both in its scope and also its methods of validity, I suppose you could say. It's like, and this is something we noticed during the week when we visited the medium down in, where was it, Luton? Yeah,
Hitchin.
in Hitchin, yeah. And it was just very interesting to see this total focus on just provide the evidence, but then nothing about the experience of the spirit, nothing about his life or her life, nothing about what it was like when they passed, nothing about anything, although the medium was perfectly capable of receiving that information. The medium himself did not want to even receive the information or transmit it to people on Earth. And it also developed this very interesting dynamic that the people on Earth became needy for personal, some personal interaction, something about their life. So it ended up becoming very selfish for the person who's receiving the message, rather than it being sort of focused on helping not only the person but everybody who was there by explaining and giving more detail and understanding to what was going on.
Yeah. And this is what I mean about the corruption of mediumship on Earth now. I feel that by this stage, it's a lot, it's a good half a century. It's centuries beyond when we could give evidence.
Like good evidence, like solid.
But by the time I passed, I thought that we could proceed beyond just giving evidence. Now evidence is seen as the pinnacle of mediumship. And yet this is the rudimentary part of mediumship.
That's right.
It's an essential part of it, but it's rudimentary.
Yeah.
And the scope of human experience, I also find that the construction of churches that are based simply around the practice of giving evidence to people who then become needy for special attention or messages, so-called, or acknowledgement, so-called, from people who've passed, that is not a spiritual practice.
No.
That is just a very basic element of making contact with someone who has passed over, but it educates not the spirit nor the person on Earth nor the rest of the congregation about the truths of the spirit life and about the experience of spirits, or even the experience of people on Earth. Yeah,
because most people don't even know that they're having these ongoing spirit interactions.
Yes.
Yeah.
People are very needy for, as we're saying, for special attention and to avoid their grief, much like what you've been talking about today.
Yeah.
And as a result, the interactions with spirits are corrupted by some very basic, again, rudimentary feelings that can be moved beyond very quickly within the medium. The medium has to have a dedication to their own personal work as much as they have to dedicate themselves to developing a desire for truth from spirits, truth about the spirit world and truth about the spirit life.
Yeah.
It's a great travesty what's happening, and that there is not more truth given about the spirit life existence and the continuity between the two states, between the earth life and the spirit existence.
Yeah. And you would also probably think too about the scientific evidence that can be provided, because this is another thing I see as well, is this evidentiary mediumship only provides evidence to the person who's being given evidence to.
Certainly.
It doesn't actually provide evidence to anybody else at all. And yet if there were more scientific evidence
Yes.
provided to Earth, then it would provide evidence to everybody, not just to the one or two people who are listening to the message.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the problem of arrogance, where people are given information from the spirit world all the time in the areas of science and
Exactly,
maths,
yeah.
but these things are not acknowledged by the
Yeah.
person on earth.
Yeah.
And I agree that we need mediums who are open to all aspects of endeavour,
Yeah.
including science and maths, but who have a heart for service.
And also have a heart to be honest that it's not their ability and it's not their knowledge, but it's actually the Spirit's knowledge being transmitted to them via them as the medium.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and when I was on Earth, and continuing now, there's a fascination for me in even the substance of the spirit body,
Yeah.
And how matter interacts between earth matter
Yeah.
and the spirit world, and
Yeah.
the manipulation of matter.
Yeah.
I know these things are also quite rudimentary, but I do find them quite fascinating.
Yeah, but also they are ways that evidence can be provided to
Yes.
more people at the same time than just to one or two people about a personal experience.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's just great to talk about this.
Yeah, yeah. So what sphere are you in now yourself?
In the third sphere.
Third
now.
sphere?
Yeah.
Yep. And what have you been learning about there?
Well, many of the things that you've been teaching, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've
Yeah.
had. I was very fortunate that I passed in sort of the middle of the first sphere,
Yeah.
and because I was so fascinated by everything, I was able to move quickly
Yeah.
through the second sphere.
Yeah.
I've been here in the third sphere for quite a while.
Yeah.
Well, I imagine I'm going to be here in the third sphere for quite a while,
Why do you imagine that?
because there's challenging things to learn
Yeah.
about oneself
Yeah.
and about the nature of life.
Yeah.
I believe I'm commencing my relationship with God now,
Yeah.
and finding that very rewarding.
So you started receiving God's love and
Yeah, just
recently? Mm-hmm.
and just a bit.
Yeah.
I am a man. I do have a lot of arrogance. I am aware. And I have been very headstrong in my life.
Yeah.
Something that I can see has served me.
Yeah. In
But-
terms of providing you with a direction
Yes.
and
Getting
goals
things
and-
done.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
yes. And quite inquisitive, but also quite intellectual.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so these are challenges that I know I'm going to face coming
Yeah.
up,
Yeah.
giving those up.
Yeah.
God's love is already making me sensitive to those things.
Yeah.
I do feel one of my assets is that I have quite a playful nature
Yeah.
and quite an inquisitive soul. So I think that will help me, but I'm also realistic. I do understand that there's things
Perhaps
to
not
learn.
yet quite realistic about the power of God's love, maybe.
You think I'll find it better than I think, or
Yeah.
yeah.
I do.
Well, I'm sure it's ahead of me.
Have you met John? Because one of John, the Apostle John, is one of his desires is about mediumship too on Earth.
I haven't actually spoken
Okay.
to him.
Would you like to meet?
I'd love to.
Okay.
I'd love to.
We'll arrange that now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
I'll just let him have a bit of a chat first. Yeah. Now he doesn't want to come back and talk to us.
He's such a lovely fellow, and you're right. I think there's. I'm quite interested in his plans.
Yeah. So we have a lot of plans about helping, with regard to mediumship on Earth, and as you are probably now becoming aware, and John's involved in those plans, of course, quite a lot. And so it'd be good to have a conversation with it. And I know you'd like to do that right now.
Yeah.
But I was wondering. When it came to your Earth life, did you give much consideration? I know that a part of the tenets of the teaching, shall we call it college, that you established was in there being one God.
Yes.
And the basic tenets that were created in the late 18th, 19th centuries. With regard to spiritualist churches,
in the late 18th.
Late 18th, that it had also included in the college that you had. And we see them everywhere we go. Almost every spiritualist church Mary and I visit, you see these tenets listed quite clearly, and yet. The mediums themselves who do the channeling in the actual church that that's meant to be established on these tenets, they disagree fundamentally with the underlying tenets in many cases.
Well, and that's partly why I came, because you need to keep telling people that they don't have the education.
Yeah.
They don't. This is what I wanted for the college, to really not just bring evidence of the spirit life, but bring evidence of these facts, that life continues, that there is one God, that there is redemption for humans, and punishment for humans according to the life that they lived on Earth. These things are not being proven because mediums are not educated. And as you know, many of them have predispositions to not seek this information.
Correct.
They're worried about what it means for them. They're worried about how people will receive them. They're worried about their income, frankly, many times. And so they're not seeking these things out, or they start to seek things out and they become very confused and overwhelmed because, as you know, spirits say all different things according to what they think at the time, according to where they are in the spirit life. And so mediums desperately need education about how to find truth. And we cannot neglect the personal work that a medium must do on themselves in order to become sincere about the seeking of truth. As you well know, and as I've come to learn, one must be willing to give up personal preferences, personal biases, personal emotions in order to fully receive the truth. And mediums need a school. This is what I was trying to create.
Your school.
A school where
school.
they can learn these skills.
That's right.
Where they can learn how to work on themselves, not how to give evidence, or not how to play around with ectoplasm, and not to learn. I mean, I love all of those things. I want all of those things.
Interesting
as well.
so far as they go, aren't they?
But we need to reach a consensus about the nature of the spirit life. And at the moment, mediums as a collective are very frightened of doing that because there will be division. There will be people opposing each other, disagreeing, and there's a lot of fear of that because, of course, mediums already feel like they're opposed by the majority of society, which is another reason why I wanted to set up the college, so that there would be a place where they could come and be supported, be acknowledged, be able to learn in an environment that wasn't always critical and undermining. And to some degree, I think that spirit is ongoing, but now we've lost the research part of it.
The desire to know new truth that most mediums on Earth do not know. And to reach a consensus among mediums of what happens when you pass. And that is a challenge, I know, but if mediums are given skills with which to seek truth and how to develop themselves personally, it can be done. So has that been the reason why you've been hanging around Mary a bit?
Yes. I want her to do it.
Exactly. And preferably in your college.
Yes.
But of course, that's going to be very dependent, isn't it, on being invited and obviously people's will and those kind of things.
Yes.
Yeah.
And her being willing.
And Mary being willing. Well, I think Mary's getting more willing. I think it's just more not forcing ourselves either into environments that don't really want you to be there.
No, but you could visit.
Yeah, well, we did consider it, didn't we? Mary and I, we were looking at doing it. Obviously, with our tight schedule, it's going to be a bit difficult to do it this visit, but we're hoping maybe next visit we could visit. And
I would like that very much.
We see what's going on. Let's go and visit your college. Where is it exactly?
It's just showing me the map. It's north east.
We'll find it online,
northeast
won't we?
of London.
Yeah, we'll find it on the
Yeah.
net. That's one good thing the net's good for.
Yeah. The internet can be a very good thing.
Of course.
I am quite fascinated by it, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an excellent medium to share truth. If that was its underlying purpose, it would be fantastic. Yeah, so how do you feel in your college? How do you feel how open those mediums who attend that college would feel about that at the moment?
Well, yes, I can see it would be challenging.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yes, and they're very focused on evidence. But, I could help. I have spirit friends here who could help to inspire them.
Yeah.
But yes, and given that what I would like to happen is a lot of changes to the way that research is being developed there, it might be challenging.
Yeah.
I do concede that.
Yeah. Yeah, the difficulty that you're feeling or facing at the moment is very similar to the difficulty that other people who've taught Christianity on earth and other things where they realise there's certain things they want to include and there's certain things they want to change and there's certain things they'd like to see done. But now it's how do I go about influencing people on earth to go down that track without breaking, of course, the laws governing free will, that obviously are paramount in the consideration of change on earth, And it's a problem that every person who's taught things on earth faces when they pass, isn't it? Or set up colleges on earth or set up a purpose on earth, only to find those purposes, I suppose you could say, diluted or polluted in some way. And then, of course, as a spirit, the frustration you feel about, or not so much frustration, you feel like, no, I want to change that now, back to the way, I'd like to see it happen. And the trouble now is that there's other people who've got control of those things that we set up and unfortunately quite often don't listen.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
And of course, I don't mean to be critical of those people. I do absolutely feel that there are people who are involved in mediumship on earth who are extremely well intentioned
and capable as well.
Extremely capable.
Yeah.
But they're limited by the lack of education and the lack of truth.
And it's a lot of times it's a lack of education they personally have, isn't it, as well?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
And also the sort of the culture of a group when new ideas come in, often that it's seen as quite threatening.
Yeah.
But you're right, I am quite frustrated because, of course, now I know so much more.
Yeah.
If I was still alive, I'd be very old, but if I was still alive, perhaps I wouldn't feel this level of feeling that my original intention had been tainted because I wouldn't know just how much more there is to know.
Yeah, because of your new experience in the spirit world.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Yes, you're right. It's true. I feel regret and frustration, and also a sort of a sense of powerlessness.
Yeah.
To bring about change, once I set a ball rolling, do feel responsible for how
that ball.
How it's going, how it's rolling.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes, I suppose I am a bit pressuring of you because I would like you to redirect that. I can see perhaps that's because I feel frustrated.
Yeah, from our perspective, we would love to visit your college, of course, and we'd love also to be involved in the education of mediums, because we see that there is a lot of people who have mediumistic skills but don't understand what they're dealing with really in almost every facet of it, like with rapport, how to create rapport, but also they don't understand things about like the spirit world and how the spirit world works and why certain spirits come, and they don't understand what the intention of the spirit is in coming either. In terms of the earthbound spirits, a lot of times their intention is to try to work through some of their history with people on earth and things like that, and they don't sort of understand almost everything going on, with the exception that they are still alive and that they can communicate. And also there is this very strong desire on earth to make everything look goody-goody, like make everything look nice and happy.
And that's very much about pleasing the people on earth.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
And what I see is that, a medium, like everyone's a medium. I mean, I found that fantastic when I was on earth.
Yeah.
Really, everyone can be a medium.
Yeah.
And it's true. It's really true. I understand that to be fact now.
Yeah.
But people who have more interest or openness
or passion
in that area, often they can come from any walk of life.
Yeah.
And if they decide to pursue it, they're coming to it with whatever. Often they come to it, it's like they decide it's something they want to pursue, and then they look for a framework to fit their experience into.
Yes.
And they look to the earth for that.
For that framework.
Or sometimes they look to a spirit who is really in a close rapport with them.
Or a codependent relationship with them.
Yeah, which is not very developed. And then they get sort of a kind of a framework, but it's not very well developed.
No.
And what I notice is that some mediums know some truth that is real truth, and then they have these other ideas and concepts kind of
far removed
living
from truth.
Alongside that in their frame of understanding.
Yeah.
And then other mediums have other bits of truth, but then all these other things colouring their viewpoint. And really, if mediums were more humble, which is why I like what you talk about, if they were more humble, they would focus on the practice of taking the message from the spirit without trying to fit it into a framework initially.
Or their own belief system. Yeah.
Yes, the framework of their own beliefs. They would be a student of their process far more than a student of the earth.
Yeah.
And if they were also sort of a student of God, well, that would be ideal.
Yeah.
But even just to be of service to the spirit world, but not give up their discernment, obviously, about the character of the spirit. But I understand the impetus to try and put it all in a framework, but very often it's just so coloured and tainted, and people seek to have community or seek to have agreement or some kind of belief system to be aligned with, rather than be a student of their own craft.
Yeah. And also, rather than discovering what is the truth, they'd prefer to construct what they believe is the truth and just believe that for the rest of their life, unfortunately.
And I would love to see my college dedicated to the study of the research, the scientific research into the truth, rather than a place where people come and learn a variety of different frameworks that they can either pick up or put down. But I don't feel the cohesion that I was hoping for.
Yeah. No, these are problems, aren't they, that you face when you gain more information when you're alive in the spirit world, and then you look back on Earth life and you go, wow, there's a very rudimentary, if an understanding at all, it's very rudimentary about what goes on really in the universe. And And then you go, there's so much possibility in it, and yet so little seeking for knowledge at the same time. Yeah, and a lot of it's too because people on earth generally have started to feel that everything's hopeless when it comes to truth. It's sort of, oh, how do I know what is true and what isn't true? Maybe there is no truth. Maybe it's just my truth. You know, there's so much of that kind of attitude as well. And what I find myself is that sort of hopeless feeling that starts getting generated on earth has a large impact on people's desire to seek.
Yes,
well.
and I would love for the college to be a place of open seeking, but with a growing cohesion, a growing body of evidence for what happens when you die.
Yeah.
And really then a beacon of hope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, well, I'm sure you'll enjoy your conversation with John. I'm sure you will.
Perhaps he's got some things that I can.
Yeah, there's many ideas we have, but obviously they have to be in harmony, don't they, with those principles of free will as well. But if we do get an opportunity or an invitation to go to your college at some point, I'm sure we will. But as you know, we've been to many spiritualist churches and never got invited to do anything.
Yeah.
For the reasons, ironically, that you are stating. You know, that people don't often want to be challenged in any way with regard to their concepts of what they believe truth to be. Yeah.
Well, I hope things can change. That I do. Thank you for the conversation because it helps me to understand that I need to be more responsible for my own creations and not try to pressure change on the earth.
Yeah, it's difficult, isn't it, when you created something and you're not happy about the direction that it's going, but it's sort of the momentum is there already. And when you're in the spirit world, you know a lot more truth, and yet, you know, nobody on earth who's connected to the creation you made is very connected to you. And then, so that makes it very, very difficult to influence the direction of change in a positive direction, unfortunately. And this is a problem that every spirit faces, really. And this is why, for many people, when they pass, there's so much frustration for a while about, oh, if I could only share this and if I could only share that. And that was the illustration I gave to people in the first century. Remember about the rich man and Lazarus, that illustration, which was really an illustration to sort of show people that there's opportunities being offered to people on earth, and yet most people on earth are not even aware of those opportunities. And when they pass, they become aware, but now the opportunity doesn't exist to, you know, let anybody else really know that those opportunities exist. And so that's obviously one reason why Mary and I decided, and the others of the 14 decided to come back to Earth as well. Yeah.
Well, I wish you well in your endeavours.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, pleasure. Okay. So that was Arthur Finlay of the Arthur Finlay College, I suppose you could say.
Finlay, I think it
Finlay,
is Finlay.
College of Spiritual, what do they call
I
it?
don't even know properly.
Spiritualist College, or I think
No,
it's
spiritual. I don't know.
spiritual.
Has anyone ever been there? Yeah, Angela, have you? You've heard of it? Yeah.
Yeah. Arthur Finlay College.
Yeah, it's a college.
Yeah, it's just, you know, we often in our travels meet new people, spirits, you know, meet new spirits who hang around us for a while, and often with a feeling that they want us to do something that they now can't do, you know, like, and we just wanted to have a chat with him and talk to him about that. Okay, well, that's us today. We thought maybe we can talk a little bit about plans if you're interested in hearing them. I know many of you have heard them last week, so we don't want to bore you.
Put a new spin on it.
We don't want to bore you with things to do that. I suppose I should say, do any of you want to ask any questions about what we just talked about with Arthur? Yeah, would you like to?
We need some microphone runners, don't we?
We need to grab those mics.
Yeah.
So just grab those. I might pull this over just in case I need to write on it.
Mm-hmm. Yep, we'll go to Sean and Gabrielis. There we go. And yeah,
So I have tried to talk to one medium in Lithuania about divine truth, and he was very assertive that according to him and like many specialists like him, reincarnation exists and so on. So I was wondering, how could you explain the regression hypnosis?
just before we do that, Tim, would you mind shutting those windows, please? Just there's
It's just
lot
a bit
more road
noisy,
noise.
yeah. People are coming home from their holidays or whatever, and it's getting a bit noisy. So
Thanks.
I have explained it before as to what's going on with regression and hypnosis and other things like that. It's actually quite a dangerous process actually to put somebody through some kind of hypnosis for the purpose of what they call past life regression. To examine a person's past. The reason why is that when you go into a state where you're less conscious yourself of anything, so let's say here's you on Earth, and you've got your spirit body, and it's the spirit body's mind which you are connected to, your own body through the silver cord, you're connected. But when a spirit comes, basically your connection to the spirit, to your physical body from your spirit body has to sort of distance itself a bit. So what happens is when somebody puts you in a state of hypnosis, shall we call it, what's actually happening is there's a distancing going on between the control of your spirit body over your physical body. So the cord is still attached, but the spirit body is encouraged through your own will to step away from controlling this body so somebody else can control the body. Does that make sense? And that somebody else will be a spirit who feels attracted to control your body. Now, that spirit will have a history. You'll have a history of experience, and you have experiences,
Feelings, emotions.
your feelings, emotions, senses. Obviously he's still got the ability to smell things and taste things and touch things. But while you're in this state where you don't have complete control over the mind of your physical body, he can pass many of these things, including sensory feelings, through the brain of your physical body and make you feel them all. Does that make sense? Now, the problem with the past life regression theories is that 1 week it might be Joe Blow. The next week it might be somebody who is Joe Blow, but he wants you to believe that he's, King Arthur. How do you spell Arthur?
Arthur.
Rather than Joe Blow. Because if you connect to King Arthur, you might be more open to connecting King Arthur, and because you might want to feel special, compared to just connecting to Joe Blow down the road, right? So Joe down the road might want to come to you, and then he might want to say, well, I would like to influence you in your future. This gives me an opportunity to do that, not just now, but also in your future, because I've now established a connection with you. But I might feel, as that spirit, I might feel like if I can impersonate somebody rather than actually tell you who I really am, then there's a higher likelihood, if you want to feel special or you want to feel important or whatever, this person here who's going through the regression therapy, if they want to feel special, important or whatever, then it'd be better if I present myself as King Arthur or something like that. Then of course you also get there's a large group of spirits in the spirit world, in Earthbound, who actually were important people on Earth. But the reason why they're still Earthbound is because they haven't grown at all and they're still in a terrible condition of love. And so some of them might come as well. So, sorry?
Michael Jackson.
Yeah, someone like, yeah. So let's say it's Michael Jackson. AEL, isn't it? Yeah, so I better change that. So he might actually come and try to speak to you, and you go, oh, now when it's someone like Michael Jackson, someone who's like recently passed, and most people generally don't think that they are them. But when it's someone a long time ago, they go,
Elvis.
"Oh, that was my past life," and then the spirit goes, "Yeah, I want to tell you about me." Because most people are pretty selfish, right? Most people want to tell you their story and tell you their life. We meet people every day who just come up to us and start talking about it, their life. But I didn't ask you about your life. Like, why do I want to hear that? Like, it's a feeling I have. But they go, oh, I'm forcing you to listen to me. So these spirits are doing the same. Yeah, listen to me. You're open now to listen to me. So I'm going to say and think all my life. And often the person who's the therapist, so let's say we've got a therapist involved here, he might be video recording it, right? So not only does this spirit now get to be video recorded for posterity's sake, he gets to say a whole heap of things. This person here is now getting more and more convinced that you were that person through this whole interaction. But it's quite easily explained that it's not you. It's actually just somebody connecting to your body while you step back from it and going through an experience. And then you come out of that experience because you weren't often aware that it was happening in this sort of hypnosis, shall we say, or regressive state. And then you watch the video and you go, wow, I was King Arthur in one life, and I was Joe in the other life, and I was Michael J in the other life. And you know what I mean? And what it does oftentimes is connect to this person on earth, feeling that they want to be special and they're not special. And so they start connecting to all those emotions and feelings, and they start, and of course, by doing this, they are actually getting closer. If there are real people that they've actually connected to, they start getting closer to those spirits as well. So those spirits end up talking more through them, saying things how they would say them. And then some person on earth goes, wow, that's exactly what, Joe used to be like, wow, you must be the reincarnation of Joe, right? But it's all explained by something completely logical rather than having to be reincarnation. And yet the average person doing this wants to believe in reincarnation for all sorts of personal pride reasons, wants to believe in it. And so what happens is this person often gets more and more and more connected to the spirit world and the spirits involved, and less and less connected to their own life on earth, right? And there's a lot of reasons why a person may choose to do that. They're not having a very fulfilling life. Usually if they're going to a regression therapist, as they call them, the person's already quite dissatisfied with their own life. And of course, this is very tempting to do all of these things, right? And then people say, this is proof of reincarnation. But it's not proof of reincarnation, because you can't prove something if there's 25 other explanations for the same thing. It's just that everybody wants to deny that there's 25 other explanations for the same thing and say it's all reincarnation. Right? And this is very illogical. It's not a scientific process, it's not a logical process, because in the end, nobody really wants to be logical in the process, because it gives them feelings of grandeur, gives them feelings of wanting to be like that they were known in their past. And don't you realize in my past I was Cleopatra, right? That kind of thing.
Or a way to explain away their pain, isn't it? I struggle with how did Cleopatra die? She was snakes or something. I'm quite afraid of snakes because I die. When I was Cleopatra, I died.
These kind of things. Yeah. So it helps them sort of explain away things that are happening in their life to a degree as well. So it's very attractive. It becomes very attractive to the person who's going through these things. Of course, all of it's actually not true, in that there's actually spirits talking to the person and talking through the person, just like Mary just did just earlier, to a person who's videoing it. But you see, the difference is when Mary is talking to the person, we know the person is not Mary. We know it's a spirit, like we just talked to Arthur. We know it's Arthur. When we talked earlier to Errol, we knew it was a different person, right? At least we know that. And we know it's not Mary either, right? At least Mary isn't claiming to be those persons in her past life. She has a hard enough time claiming to be Mary Magdalene rather than that. But
No more, please, no more.
and also, it makes everything in your life a lot more confusing, to be frank, and also makes you very tempted to not deal with your own problems, right? So it's a very damaging process. Now, I've just given you a very short explanation. Of course, we could go longer into the dynamics and the emotions involved and why these spirits come and where they're coming from. And in fact, if Mary and I were present in any of these things, we could instantly make a disconnection, talk to the spirit and say, why are you doing this? And, and it would be quite easy to deal with. But unfortunately, the people involved in these things don't want you to do that, because they would rather believe the illusion that this person is a reincarnation of, 30 or 50 other people. And I think there's been documented examples from psychologists now of people who have had up to 200 spirits coming to them, and they've been in therapy for 10 years. You know what I mean? What a shame. Because that person's not growing, not actually changing, not actually growing by going through all these experiences. They're just getting more and more and more spiritually confused. Yeah, so very, very sad to see these things happening on Earth. And again, like Arthur was saying just earlier, it's because mediums refuse to accept some fundamental truths about the spirit world. Like a fundamental truth is there is no reincarnation. That's a fundamental truth. So they refuse to accept these fundamental truths. And then there's a fundamental truth is that, there's no such thing as a person having past lives. That's a fundamental truth. No such thing. Mary and I haven't had a past life. We have had one life, not a past one. People come up to us and say, oh, you were on Earth 2,000 years ago. I'm going, well, yeah, but... And then they say, and you came back. And I go, yeah. And they go, what happened in between? And I said, well, I lived a whole life in between, And I say, and I remember it. And they go, what do you mean? All they're interested in is asking me about my first century life or this life now. They don't think that the majority of my life has happened in a place that wasn't here, right? And they don't think to ask questions about that life. What that
That's
life is
because
like.
there's no faith in that.
Because there's no faith in that, right? On Earth, there's no faith in that. It's sort of like, I can conceptualize the fact that so a person had a past life because all this theories on Earth about past lives. But we haven't had a past life. So there's nobody on Earth, or nobody in the spirit world has ever had a past life. There is one life that's continuous, that when you have it, you'll be conscious of. You'll have degrees of consciousness of that life depending on how emotionally shut down you are and how sensory shut down you are, and depending on how much you feel and whatever you've experienced. And if you try to shut down your trauma, of course, you won't remember certain parts. But if you don't shut down your trauma, you'll remember everything. That's how it is, right? But the average person doesn't want to believe any of that, who is going through this in particular, because they want to be more special than they feel. They do want themselves to be someone else. I said to Mary, it'd be funny. One of our friends is Queen Elizabeth II. And I said to Mary, it would be funny if we asked Queen Elizabeth II to come along. Not the Queen that just passed, of course, but we're talking about the Queen from, it's nearly 150 years ago or whatever. We met her, and the way we met her was that we were channeling the Paget, and she came along to channel the Paget. And that's how we met her. And she was in quite a dark space at the time, and she eventually found God's truth, and she's actually on the divine love path, right? But she wouldn't have found it if she didn't come to Paget, probably, and channel through Paget. And that's how we met her, because we were channeling the Paget, so that's how we met her. And we wouldn't have met her otherwise, but I said to Mary, it'd be funny if we channeled her in England. It was funny, we went to Fox Studio here in England and we were asking questions from Eamon Holmes. Well, I think his name is, isn't it Eamon Holmes?
Eamon.
Is that right?
Yeah, Eamon.
Eamon Holmes. Yeah. Okay. And he was doing a morning show, and they asked me about some question. One question they frivolously and a bit condescendingly asked me was about, how do I know I'm not Queen of England or whatever.
No. They asked you.
When people say,
"Can you tell us?" There was 3 people. They said,
yeah,
I can't remember who they were. One of them was Queen Elizabeth.
Yeah.
And you said, actually, yeah, I know all 3 of those people, and you're able to say that.
Yeah, I know all 3 of them. I think they asked about Buddha, Queen Elizabeth, and somebody else. I can't remember.
Yeah,
but they expected me to. I don't know what they expected me to do, but the feeling coming from it was, they felt the whole reincarnation thing's rubbish, the whole past life thing's rubbish, which is true. And then they also go, well, you being Jesus is rubbish. And well, maybe not true. Maybe I am Jesus, and, maybe I do know these people because I met them, right? So Mary and I have met many people. Obviously, some of them are famous and other ones are not. When I say famous on earth, there are a lot of spirits that are famous in the spirit world who are not famous on earth. And because they did things in the spirit world that were great, and therefore they're honoured and respected for what they did. And some of them we know. Most of them we know. So, we've met millions of people in the course of 2,000 years. That's how it is. You do. But this occurring is completely different to what we're describing. This is what's called past life regression, is the encouragement of earthbound spirits in particular, or spirits in the house, to have a stronger bond and relationship with a person on earth through the guise of therapy. Not good. Right? Not good. And there's also very little difference to that than schizophrenia, to be honest. Schizophrenia, people overcloak the individual, often for the same reason, because the person here feels unimportant in his own life, wants a feeling of importance, wants to get away from their own life some way or another, and the spirit comes and in different moments overcloaks the individual and gets the person to do things that the person otherwise would not potentially do. It's the same goes with manic depression. With manic depression, you have this high, and the high state, which is, I don't want to be my life anymore. The low state is, my life is depressed and I'm sad and I don't want to feel my sadness and I'm quite angry. That's the low state. And the high state is, I'll just let a spirit overcloak me and have fun with my body for a while. And they do. They come and overcloak the person, and then for 2 or 3 days they're off partying and sleeping around and getting drunk and doing as much as they can until the spirit can no longer maintain the energy with that person's body, and then disconnect happens, and then they're back in their depressed state. A lot of what are called mental illnesses, psychotic episodes, are all the same kind of thing. So, and even things like when you take marijuana or ayahuasca or other things, you're encouraging similar experiences. And all of these experiences, while they should let you know that there must be something going on, which is true, they are all quite dangerous experiences for you, the person on earth. They're dangerous because you might start believing and thinking things that are not true because these interactions have occurred, because you want to believe those things that are not true. And you use the interactions that have occurred as a justification. And so it's very, very damaging, to do these things. Not helpful for you spiritually, not helpful for your emotions, right? And also not helpful in terms of developing your relationship with God, or even closeness to yourself in any way, in terms of understanding yourself. All very, very dangerous things. And it's amazing how many people buy it off. Millions of people do this willingly do it, only to find when they pass that none of it was true. None of it. Imagine you've lived this whole life on earth for the sake of thinking you're other people, only to find after you pass it that none of that was true. It's like devastating for most of them when they pass. Right? Yeah. For the same reason, they would have been devastated if they just felt some emotions, because they want to feel that they have some importance. Now, the beautiful thing about receiving God's love is God, as you saw in the case of Errol today, God will show you how important God feels you are. Through that receiving of love, God will show you. And you won't need to feel important or better than anyone else afterwards. You really won't. So all this competitive stuff that goes on in so-called spiritual circles, all of it is indicative of the fact that people are removed from God's love. Yeah, it's worth bearing in mind. Does that help you in terms of?
Yes, I'm not sure if what should I do next? Should I show this video to him, or how do I change his mind?
Why do you want to change his mind so much?
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah. See, there's also issues with that, isn't there? It's like every person has free will. They're allowed to choose to do what they choose to do. God doesn't stop them from doing it. It's a loving thing to want to try to help a person. But if after you talk to them or after you show them a video of what's actually going on, they still don't want to know and they still don't want to accept, what can you do? There's very little you can do. The will of the person will be paramount in their life, and whatever they will to do, they will do. Whatever they desire to do, they will do. All we can do is demonstrate a sincere, loving interest in our friends who believe these things and share with them the truth if they allow us to. That's really all you can do. You can't force it on them. You can't pressure them. But you can say, would you like to know what the truth is about it? You can ask that. And you can also pray. See, what I've found a lot is sometimes I see things going on amongst people that I know and I go, I haven't got the opportunity yet. An example was that actually on Thursday. I felt for yourself, James, what's going on last week. And before then, when Mary first conversed with you. And I thought it'd be lovely if James gave me an opportunity to share the truth with him, right? So on Thursday, I prayed about you. I prayed about, can God arrange things so that you have a desire to know? Does that make sense? And so, lo and behold, James puts his hand up in the audience. I go, James, right? Because there's my opportunity. Like, if he didn't put his hand up, I don't really have an opportunity. I don't really have an opportunity to share with him what's going on because the will is not engaged at that point to know. But as soon as the will is engaged to know, I'm not breaking the law sharing anymore.
And when you receive God's love, you become very sensitive to other people's free will. You know, you don't want to force things upon people because you understand it's your open seeking heart that has allowed love and truth to enter. You really understand sort of on an emotional level that if you try and force something on someone and they're not open or seeking it, it doesn't work anyway. So, and it's also breaking a law. It's saying, I want to override your will. You know, so your desire to change his mind, for example, is different from feeling, wow, I can see how it would benefit him and his clients if he knew the truth about it.
Just have an opportunity to hear the truth.
Yeah,
you know?
but
that
also,
they must create.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry. Yeah, that's okay. It's okay. That's what I mean. Yeah.
So for my interaction with James that we had, when was it, Friday? My prayer during the week about this circumstance was a part of why it happened, right? And because I asked, but also a part of why it happened was there were some influences then brought to bear upon James to finish up putting up his hand and wanting to know, having some suspicion from our prior conversations that something's going on, and then wanting to know, right? And you can work with that. When a person wants to know, you can always work with that. But when a person doesn't want to know, you don't want to fight with them, you don't want to argue with them. At the end of the day, just offer an opportunity. Look, I know what's going on. If you want to know, I'm happy to share with you, you know, and or even just watch this video. This is how you come. This is what's going on. That's all it requires, but it does require you honouring their will, right? It requires you, if you're loving, you will not browbeat them, pressure them, argue and fight with them about something, right?
And you're not invested in them changing.
Yeah.
It's the investment in change.
You just want to share the truth with them.
Your investment in someone else changing is about you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is it okay, like, to write a sincere email that takes like a day to write, and just like say that this is a gift, so you are free not to accept it? Maybe in that way.
Well, why not a face-to-face? Is there a reason?
Because when I write an email, I can check myself whether I know these things for sure or not, and tell that I'm not I don't know if that's the truth, but so and so.
Well, it's not the only reason why an email. The world today is addicted to texts, emails, videos, and a lot of the reason why is because it's depersonalization of an interaction that we really do not wish to have ourselves because of the possible confrontation we would have.
I feel very much the opposite. I mean,
so have the personal interaction.
No, I mean, usually when I have a personal interaction, like my facade may take over, or manipulation or something like
I get
automatic behavior, and then I write an email, I can
control yourself.
Yeah, control myself, but
and
also
hide.
You don't see a problem with that.
You're actually hiding your condition from yourself.
Yeah, that's right. That's what you're doing.
Yeah, no, you are. That's
no, you
not
are.
a question.
We're not. It's not a question.
Yeah.
It's, by depersonalizing an interaction, you are hiding parts of yourself from the interaction, and this is what we see as a major problem: is that a lot of people go, "But I want the video, I want the text, or whatever." But actually, the face-to-face conversation, if possible, or the live conversation by phone is far better, because you're going to have your reactions and he's going to have his reactions, or she's going to have her reactions, and this will help both of you to work through issues of why you find truth so hard to share, why you find honouring someone's free will so hard, and things like that. It will help you. And so I'd really like to encourage all of you to sort of stop this text thing and the whole email thing. And by the way, email is just a waste of time. Right? That's why you send me an email, it's very rare you're going to get a reply unless it's a one line, because it is a waste of time. It's the slowest way to communicate with someone, and it's full of the danger of them not understanding you. Whereas if you're face to face, like when I had a conversation with James, face to face, the other day, he could feel that I love him and care about him. It's not about me trying to pull him down. He can feel that I'm interested in what's really going on, not what, he can feel those things. But if I did all that via email, he wouldn't have been able to feel any of those things. Or he would have looked at the email and go, wow, this is real harsh. Because I said some pretty straight things to you, didn't I, on Friday about power and other things like that. But if he had it in an email, he would have felt, wow, that's pretty hard. And also that then allows spirit influence to overcome the person in that moment. Go, this person's not, doesn't have my welfare at heart or anything like that. And that's the danger. The danger is when you're not face to face, you're now creating an atmosphere that other people, spirits and everybody, can get involved in what's happening. And also the person doesn't feel your love for them. They don't feel your concern for them or anything like that. And they don't feel what you feel for them. Now, of course, that's going to require you dealing with any impure feelings you have for them, like worry or wanting them to get what you believe or those kind of things. That's all impure. But if you have a sincere interest to just present truth and love them in the process, they'll feel all that and they'll be far more open to receiving what you share. Right? So this whole... Go on.
If you don't feel like you have those feelings,
then don't do it.
Then why even write the email?
That's right. And don't do it until you sort out your own feelings.
Yeah. This is what we keep drawing you back to, is unless your desire is pure and loving, the law itself is going to expose to you the impurity
Of your own desire.
of your desire.
Mm.
So how can it really go as well as you want it to?
Yep. Can't. So the beauty of having a face-to-face interaction with a person is far better than any other interaction. In the spirit world, every single thing you will be taught will come from a face-to-face interaction with somebody, either in a group setting or a personal setting. It won't come from emails. There are emails. Every thought you have that you construct gets sent to the person you thinking about. So let's say I think Mary's really nasty. That thought package, while I'm thinking it, goes to Mary and she can accept it or reject it. But it's an email that goes to Mary. Just me thinking Mary's nasty is an email that goes to Mary saying, Mary, you're nasty. And Mary can either accept it or reject it, or say back, so are you. And you know what? It's an email coming back, right? So, but if I think,
It's not called an email, though.
No, it's a thought packet that telepathically, I suppose you could call it, gets transmitted. Thoughts are things. They get transmitted through space. And in fact, thoughts have some physical limitations in terms of their speed of transmission and other things like that. They can't be transmitted faster than light or anything like that, but they are transmitted through space. So thoughts are. But as you grow into becoming a celestial spirit, feelings get transmitted and they're not limited by space or time. So if I have a feeling for Mary, I love her, she feels it straight away. Right? But it's like a thought packet when you're in the soul space. Right? But before then, most sixth-sphere spirits and anybody whoever lives underneath that space, they think things, and that thought goes to another person. If it's directed at another person, that's who it goes to. Right? So there is emails, but it's just sort of thoughts constructed that are sent back and forth. So if I go, Mary, can I meet you at 2:00 over on Alpha Centauri? Mary will go, yes or no, back, and I'll be able to hear that. Right? And we can tee up events and we can meet up with people. If a global event is done, then people transmit this global event is happening to lots and lots of people in a sphere, and the ones who want to go all say, yeah, I'm going, and they go. Does that make sense? So these things happen, but it's far better to understand that your feelings and your thoughts are things, and these feelings and your thoughts are going to determine your interaction with your friends. They're going to determine people will feel your love. But if they're not face to face with you, most people can't feel it. They are not sensitive enough to feel it. See, every bad thought you've ever had about me comes to me. You understand? So I know when you're thinking these condescending things about me and other things like that, right? And I feel them, as Mary knows. I go, oh, such and such is doing that, that such and such is doing that. And it's just about whether you want to accept that or reject that as to what happens, right? Now, if you're face to face, it's harder for a person to misinterpret a thing than it is if you do it using any other medium of communication. When you're face to face, you can feel your love for them and you can feel the truth that you believe, and that can be shared. But many of you are, particularly many of you younger ones, are afraid of face-to-face communication nowadays because you've become so bound to devices that buffer your feelings from their feelings. You understand? And your thoughts from their thoughts. And so there's a buffer in between, which is the device. And so you can now fake on the device, you can fake things. You can go, oh, I'm really interested in you, when you couldn't care less about the person. You can say, I'm not angry, when you're actually angry as hell. You can say these things and you can fake these things. And this is why we like the devices, because they allow us to fake interactions with people rather than having real ones. Right?
And if you think about your question is, I want to be able to fake this.
Yeah.
No, I'm not asking you.
It's not a question.
you
can-
literally,
you
if you
can
listen back
accept
to the
or reject
recording,
that.
you said, if I do it face to face, I might get angry, or I might get,
Correct.
you said I might go into facade, I might do these other things.
I might get impulsive.
Impulsive, exactly,
Yeah.
which is a part of your
Which
condition.
and you, by having the device, is faking your impulsiveness.
That's right.
Right.
If it's there
It's
within you, wouldn't you want to expose that within yourself?
Yeah,
If you're
of course you
humble,
would.
you would want to know what's in yourself, not try to restrict or control or present another facade through the email.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, one of the things that we would like to have talked about with you this weekend is truth, because it's an issue that we haven't put a lot of focus on this weekend. But what we find is so many of you are living a lie and not even knowing it, not even thinking you are, because you fake everything you do. You're trying to control how everyone around you perceives you and how they react to you. And so a lot of the things you do are all pleasant. And this is very English, if you think about it. This whole polite demeanour, which, has been educated over hundreds of years, while at the same time storing some very, very concerning emotions, right? And this is not living in harmony with the principle of truth. So when you communicate with another person, not face to face, you've got to make sure that the very thing you're communicating is exactly what you feel. Otherwise, you've broken a law. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. So if you're partially angry and partially worried about your impulsiveness, you need to somehow communicate that. If you're going to communicate via a device to somebody. And this is why when most people email me and they get an email back, I am straight down the line with exactly what I feel about the subject. And they go, wow, there's a guy this week dealing with an engineer. This engineer, on June the 17th or something, I contracted him to do a small job for me. He promised he would have it done by the 27th of July. I paid him up front to complete the job. So I paid all the money up front on the 27th of June. 17th. Or even earlier than that, I think it was 17th of June. And he told me he would have the job done by the 27th of July. I email him on the 30th of July and ask him what's going on. He emails me back and says, oh, yeah, I haven't got to it yet. Right? So I'm patient. I wait another month. 27th of August comes by. Right? I email him back and say, what's happened to the job? Nothing. Haven't got anything from him at all. He hasn't communicating with me, nothing. Right? Now, he needs to know that this behaviour is pretty bad. He's not taking my phone calls. He's not allowing me to go face-to-face because obviously I'm overseas. So I do need to communicate with him by the written word somehow, but I need to be straight. I need to say, what you're doing is not ethical, and also it's not what you agreed. Now, I can feel him well enough. I can feel that he thinks I'm being a pain in the neck and, being demanding and whatever else. But I'm not being demanding. He promised something on the 27th of July, and he could have communicated with me that wasn't possible, but he did not. After I had a meeting with him, in fact, 2 meetings beforehand, saying that I wanted him to communicate with me freely about every issue, and I wanted him to let me know if it wasn't possible up front. I already had laid all the groundwork for this to happen. So now, what can I do? Now, he doesn't want to hear from me, and he's also taken the money. He also has broken his contract at this stage, and that's where it is at the moment. But I can feel what he thinks. He thinks I'm being a, pain in the neck, even though he's the one who's broken his own contract and been unethical. Right? And I'm going to say that to him when I get the opportunity, because that's exactly what's happened. Now, the average person receiving those kind of emails from me goes, what? you know, and how bad is this and how terrible is that guy? And I go, I'm just being honest with you, man. It's like, you've done this. I'm just saying you've done it. What are we going to do about that? The fact that you've done it. What are we going to do that you've done that? And what are you going to do about that? I need to be straight with you about that. The average person, your generation and under, can't handle that for some reason. And part of the reason is because you're so addicted to the furry, fuzzy that come through devices. And do you know what I mean by furry fuzzies that come through devices? The messages that go, oh, aren't you lovely? You're really lovely, but I want this. That kind of, you know, there's an underlying tone of do it, but there's on top of it, there's all this facade and it's all misrepresenting what's really going on. So I would encourage all of you to be far more honest with yourselves, firstly, about what you actually feel when you engage situations where you're trying to help people, so-called, and when you're trying to, you know, share truth with people and so forth. You've got to make sure that your feelings about the issue are dealt with so that you can be straight and honest with the person you're dealing with. And it's far better if you can have a face-to-face interaction with that person than it is to do it via any other means. So now I might not get the engineering until I go home, which is about November the 9th or something, but one of the very first things I'm going to do is drop in and have a face-to-face with that engineer. Make sense? And he's not going to like it, but that's the way it is. That's going to have to happen.
Now, we had someone else with the mic.
Yep. Who was that?
Sean,
Fire away.
do you remember your question?
I was just offering to be a mic runner, but I will ask a question.
Awesome.
I will ask a question. When you were channeling Arthur before,
Yeah.
I got the feeling after Tim's question earlier about prayer possibly being just a codependent addiction fed by spirits. And I was just wondering generally how Arthur would know, even though he hadn't received any of God's love at that stage, how to determine whether your passions are in harmony with love.
Well, it's a good question, but see, with Arthur, he was quite connected to, he could see the positive benefits of truth in regards to spirit world interaction with humans. So while he was on Earth,
Yeah.
he was very, very passionate about finding the truth about this other world that he had discovered a fair bit about, in the sense that he knew it existed and he had certain experiences that proved to him it existed. And one of the reasons why he created his college was because he wanted other people to learn more about it and to research it more about it. This is what his desire was. So he wanted that to happen. Now, in himself, he didn't necessarily at the time think about it being a pure desire or not. But obviously the fact that it was based on truth, remember the principles we talked about yesterday and the day before, it was based on truth. He wanted to discover some. It's also based upon love, because he wants the earth to know more about what's going on in the spirit world. So it was based on love. So even though he himself may not measure whether it was or not, the reality is it was in harmony with love and truth, and therefore something he should pursue. Does that make sense?
And so when he entered the spirit world, obviously there was rewards for having engaged his passion in harmony with love and truth.
So given his normal condition, he would have passed in a lower condition than where he arrived. But he arrived in the middle of the first sphere and not in the hells because of these pure desires. Yep.
Yep. And then obviously he was very curious and open because, you know, he entered the spirit world, something he'd been fascinated about. And so then he could make good progress. But really, he was saying he has started to receive God's love. So is your question about the reception of God's love or the following of passions?
Yeah, it's more about the following of passions.
A bit
When
closer
he was
to the
doing
mic.
it, especially with regards to an institution.
Yep.
They seem to play so heavily on addictions and power dynamics.
True. And he had some of those in his
Well, he
college,
didn't
certainly.
establish the college either.
No.
He
willed it.
Yes, when he died, he willed the property, and his desire was for the college to be established. So I guess he didn't. Some of his frustration now is that he didn't really establish the college even himself in harmony with the desires that he had when he passed. Yeah. I guess he couldn't be sure it was in harmony with God's love before he received God's love, but he has the benefit because he was in harmony with two principles, especially spiritual principles that we talked about, that it was.
And it's interesting for many people who pass, they pursue things on earth that are actually loving, and then they pass in the spirit world not understanding the things they pursued were loving. But because they were loving, they pass into a better condition. And because they followed their passion, they pass into a better condition because what they did had some love in it. And then as a result of that, they reaped the reward for something that they didn't even think about doing on earth.
For the reward.
For the reward.
Yeah.
And that's appropriate when you think about it, that we do have rewards for the things that are loving that we don't even think, that we didn't necessarily plan to do.
But
So, an example of that is, you might meet a guy like, sometimes you meet people on the street who are suffering and they haven't got enough money, and you might say, "Oh, what do you need, mate?" And he says, "Oh, I need some money for a meal." So you give him money for a meal, and he hasn't got any shoes. "You want my shoes?" And you take off your shoes, give him your shoes, because you can buy another shoe, right? So you give him your shoes. "What size are you?" "Yeah, you're my size. I'll give you my shoes." You need a jumper. You look like you're cold. I've got a jumper. I can, a coat. I can give you my coat. I can buy another one. And so you give him a coat and you walk off thinking no more about it. In the spirit world, those kind of things are rewarded. Yeah. People have passed into the top of the first sphere rather than the hills because of doing one of those things. Interestingly enough.
From a pure
place. Yeah.
Everyone's going to leave here and go, "Where's the person I can give
The closest homeless man is going to...
Here, mate, here, take it. You want it, don't you?"
It's got to be from a pure place, yeah. But yeah, so a lot of things we do on earth out of a passion or just a care of a person, we do, but we don't understand there are rewards. Remember we said on Friday when we talked about the law, living in harmony with love, there are constant rewards. And what I've experienced is there's rewards you can't even imagine that you have, When I passed into the spirit world, I did not imagine that I would have a palace as a home. But that's what I had when I arrived. Didn't even consider it when I was on earth. I didn't have a home on earth. Almost my entire life. Once I left my family on earth in the first century, I lived in a cave for about, it was close to 7 years. And then I was on the road. Didn't have a home. When I passed into the spirit world, I had a palace. I didn't know what to do with it. So walking through the palace and, crying and looking at everything. That was in the 10th sphere. And one day you might see that palace yourselves. You don't understand the rewards you're given just from the things you choose to do. And this is, you've got to have some trust and faith in God's goodness as well. That if you do things with the right intent and a loving intent, that there will always be good things that come about from it. Yeah.
See, your loving intention to be the mic runner, you got to have the
some
question.
Feedback, right? Yeah. All right. Does anyone, most of you have heard what we talked about last week about what our plans are, I suppose.
Does anyone just want to ask any questions about that rather than us go through things? Yep. So River,
Chris.
And then Chris as well. Yeah.
I don't know how relevant this is,
Yep.
but I found a video of you guys from a while back talking about like an expedition or some group of churches in Kenya that were had found divine truth. I don't know if you've got any update on how they're getting on.
Not good, because there's a lot of addiction there, a lot of corruption. There are some people who have benefited from what we've done, but there were some men in particular who wanted to corrupt it, and so we had to stop some things going there. And instead, we had to connect to some women instead who were not involved in the corruption. And so, not good. not good generally. There was just a lot of desire to corrupt it by lazy men, actually. Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yep.
Who have a lot of anger at the West, I think, and
Yeah.
wanted to take
Want to just
money.
take
money.
without
And
benefiting
not
others.
even really use it for their own purposes, not even to benefit their community, their kids and stuff.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
you got to be so careful of that. And when I look back on that experience, I go, yeah, we needed to assess the condition of the people we were dealing with far more than we did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's the benefit of having people in a location who have God's truth in their heart is
Yeah.
that, you know, you can really, you can start to teach and you can start to engage people in understanding, like we're doing in God's Way at home. You know, people can come and have experiences and get feedback, and it's done with a proper loving intention. When we're trying to, you know, send information or funds to a remote location where no one actually in that location yet has a feeling for God's
God.
truth,
Yeah.
it's quite tricky.
Yeah.
Because obviously they're coming from a place of sin and they don't yet have a pure desire.
Yeah.
That's why we're traveling more, because we want more people to have this relationship with God, because it can help in many, many ways. Many ways.
Yeah. And we're going to Chris next, sorry, and then we'll go back to yourself.
I wasn't in previous sessions like in the Midlands and so on, so I'd be quite interested in hearing what your future projects are.
Yeah, Mary and I have at the moment 3 main focuses. The first one is our own progress, obviously. So that's number 1. Number 2 is to share truth face to face with people. So what we've done is we've tried to rearrange our entire life to have more time face to face with people. And so we want to basically have a 4 to 5 months every year where we're traveling to other countries, and a couple of months at home where we're traveling around at home as well. So for around 7 months of the year, we'll probably be traveling in future every year for a while. Of course, it depends, as Mary pointed out last week, it depends a lot on the donations we receive. So every trip does cost a fair bit. And so what we're thinking of doing in the future, rather than doing, see, in this particular trip, how many places have we visited? 15 or something?
15 locations, yeah.
15 locations in 4 months.
4 months. 35 teaching days.
38 now teaching days
38
because we added a
teaching
few.
Yeah. Not including days that we just sort of hang out with people and talk. Yeah.
So it's pretty strenuous in terms of our, particularly our sleep.
Strenuous is a good adjective, yes.
Is the main problem. So when we do it next time, we want to probably go to 1 or 2 locations in a continent rather than like 7 or 8 locations. Because what's happening now is we are losing 2 days every week traveling, and then we lose a day setup as well. So we're basically losing 3 days every week, every new place we go to. And if we go to a new place every week, we've got 3 days doing a presentation. We're losing 3 days every time we go somewhere. So it's not a very good, efficient use of our time. So what we want to do is more go to a place and stay there maybe 1 month, have a bigger auditorium where lots of people can come, and like 250-seater maybe auditorium, something like that, where lots of people can come from that entire continent. And we stay there and we do a couple of, weeks of seminars, maybe have a week break, and then we can do some smaller things with people, get to know people better, have more personal interactions as well, and also get a bit of time for ourselves, because this is a big problem for this trip. For nearly 5 months, we're not going to have a lot of time to work on ourselves. So that's a big problem in terms of balancing our life properly. So that's what we want to do. We want to try to have these travel so we have face-to-face, but we also need to balance that with the work we need to do on ourselves. So our future plans this is what we're hoping for next year, is that probably come about May or something like that, we arrive in Europe or in the UK, and we have a month in the UK or a month in somewhere in Europe. At this stage, we're thinking Portugal. And then we go to Canada and USA and do much the same thing. And we're also been asked to go to Brazil, so we might actually go past Brazil on the way home. right? So that's what we're hoping to do next year, and every year thereafter, come during the summer period when there's not so much delays with transportation, not so much ice and snow at different places and where you get delayed, and we do that. And then when we go home, our plans are related to travelling at home, and also we've established the God's Way organisation at home, and in the long run we would like to establish God's Way organisation in each continent, and have an actual learning centre in each continent where Mary and I can go there and teach at that location. So, and then that people who are running it are left over there, similar to how we've left people at home, and they're continuing to run projects at home, and people who we have come to trust because they've received God's love and they've developed, and we know they're going to follow our directions, and we know they're going to follow the principles of God's principles in dealing with everything that they're dealing with, and we can have some trust and reliability that that's going to happen while we're away. And so what we'd like in the end is, and the longer term goal, is to have a place in Europe, at least one, place in the Americas, North America, at least one, place in South America, at least one, place in Africa, at least one, and eventually we hope in somewhere like China, or Vietnam or somewhere like that, in the Asian continent, and that we have people we can trust in each place running those particular centres who are going to look after those centres while we're not there, and we can start cycling people who receive some God's love, teaching in a practical way the principles we're teaching in a theoretical way to you, right? Because really what you think of the last 3 days, a lot of what we're taught is like theory in a way, isn't it? Like you're not going to get to feel it in your day-to-day life, and unless you put it in your day-to-day life and feel it. And what we've found at home is that we can create sort of days where you have a day-to-day life doing something, and we call them humility and practice days, and you can go through an experience where you realise, there's me being arrogant, there's me treating a woman badly, there's me, and actually see yourself doing it while you're doing it, type of thing. And some of you here, how many of you have had that experience? Some of you here, Tim has. Yeah. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, around about, who have already had that experience, right? Here. And we're hoping to make sure that everybody has the opportunity to have some of those experiences, to get to the stage where we have a group of people in each continent, you could say, who we can trust to run a centre and who can continue that experience when we're not there. And also do it in harmony with love, and in harmony with God's love, in harmony with truth, and in harmony with the principles we're teaching as well. So that's our goal.
Yeah, and next year or the year after, we would love when we come to Europe to actually hold some humility and practice days. So aside from the teaching days, that we actually get out and do something together and have that opportunity to... And
it might just start like one of you has a garden and you want some trees planted, and so we all go there for a day, and that's, instead of coming here talking, we go there for the day and we plant trees. Do you know what I mean? And during the process of planting trees, you get to see the interactions.
There's that addiction we were talking about.
There, and there's that thing going on, and see what you just did there, and you didn't follow directions there, and see how lazy you were there, and look at you standing on your shovel there, and like those kind of things. You get to see yourself in real life with somebody sort of giving you feedback about it, instead of just going through your life going, I'm okay, everything's fine.
Well, it's funny, isn't it? When you're just in your life, you're like, yeah, this is fine. Oh, there's that problem in that person. Yeah. Oh, this is fine. Oh, maybe I've got a small problem there. And you get to decide which is the real issue, don't you?
And you get to decide what's big and what's small.
Yes.
When you have somebody else telling you, it's quite interesting.
But that's my problem, because I never get tested enough. So I live alone.
Yeah.
And I'm doing my best, but at the moment I'm following the natural love way.
Yeah.
You've drastically woken me up on the Friday morning session, and in certain ways that I was talking to you about on the side. Something there. So there's some reality to that now that I am aware of, that I have never been aware of before at all, ever.
That's right.
something.
And you imagine if you have that experience like 3 days a week
Exactly.
or 5 days a week. When people have come over, sometimes they've been there like 5 days a week, and it's like you get that experience every day. It's like sometimes the very first day they come, it's like you're getting sent home now. It's 10 a.m. and you're going home. You're too unloving now. Like you're going home. And people go, what did I do? What did I do? Like, and, you know, you get to feel what it's like in practice to have somebody sort of showing you yourself.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Because you know better than I, and I am not surrounded by people who have that experience.
Well, it's not just that. Anybody who has received God's love knows better.
Well, that's what I meant.
Yeah. Anybody who receives God's love.
Because it's not Jesus out there running the activities. Most of the managers are women. And
some of them are children.
Some of them are under 18. Yeah, so there's just...
I mean, yeah, we have a 12-year-old manager.
Yeah.
Yeah. You imagine you go to 12...
I would be confronted by that.
Yeah. I know. There's so many who are. One time this 12-year-old manager was saying to one 68-year-old man, you are far too hooked into your wife.
You need to go and work over here. She's mothering you.
You need to work over there, and she's mothering you. And you need to work over there, and she needs to go over there. Why are you mothering him? And why? This was a 12-year-old boy who's received some of God's love, by the way. And he's saying to two 60-year-old people what their addictions are, right? Pretty confronting, eh? Yeah,
and I came out to check on how things were going. He said, it's all right, Mary, gender issues. It's fine.
Just dealt with some gender issues.
Actually, that was his brother turned around and said, no worries.
Yeah.
It's sort of gender issues.
With gender issues. Yeah. So, you know, it is interesting when you experience these things. You go, wow, this little runt of a kid is telling me what to do. Telling me what to do. How dare he, you know? And if the person involved would have acted that way, we'd have sent him home. Yeah.
But they didn't.
They didn't. They go. They had enough respect for him to see, yep, you're right. They had enough honesty with themselves to say, yep, yeah, you're probably right. Yeah, I am. And so the 60-year-old fella goes off and and works by himself for a while. Yeah. We have a whole patch of weeds that are weeds in Australia, and I don't believe in getting rid of weeds except for one purpose, and that is to teach you something, right? So we have a whole patch of weeds that I hope continue for a long time to come, because every time people come to do them, it's like you see a lot of things about the people in the process, whether they're thorough, whether they follow instructions, all these sort of spiritual qualities like thoroughness, following instructions, self-responsibility, persistence, diligence, thoroughness, all these different things are all exposed just by pulling these things out. So so we've called it the Mother of Millions program, right?
That's the name of the plant.
That's the name of the plant.
Yeah.
And it's really what it is a frustration program. Or you could say it's a highlighting spiritual errors program, really is what it is. And we, within like half an hour, the average person the first day is like absolutely sick of it. Like absolutely sick of it. And engaging addictions with the people that are working with them, and being slack, so we have some people come along and check it all out, Look, you missed that one then. Look, you missed that one then. You missed that one too. You're like, not very thorough. Are you going to keep missing them and then come back an hour later? You've missed that one and that one and that too. You might as well go home. Well, you haven't learnt anything about being thorough after somebody told you to be thorough. You might as well go home. Not sincere. So go home. But come back tomorrow. We'll see whether you're sincere tomorrow. That kind of thing. And this is very, very good for us because we end up seeing ourselves as we truly are, rather than developing an image of ourselves that is not real. And so, nobody graduates from the Mother of Millions program. So I must warn you in advance until there's some love being shown towards the plant and towards the environment, and are having a feeling that they want to understand what's going on with the plant and the environment and why it's there and all those things. Until that happens, they don't graduate. So it's sort of it's also like a college that sometimes you could not graduate for 50 years if you're not careful, right? And there are people who've been doing this for a number of years now who still have not graduated because of the basic fundamental things they haven't learnt. But interestingly enough, they come back next week. Isn't that interesting? Like, they come back because they know, I need to deal with something here and work through something here. So that's very good. And this is the kind of thing we want to create everywhere, so that people get some kind of experience of what it's like to love the environment, love people while you're working in the environment, love people when you're tired, love people when you're working hard, love people when it's hot and sweaty and it's 40 degrees outside, love people, you know, when you're going to pack up. You know, we have this constant problem with many of the men who come. They don't pack up after themselves. You can understand why, because they've had a woman packing up after them their whole life, probably, right? And so many of the men who come, they come and we have this process where you wash your stuff, you wash tools and everything afterwards, cleaned up, ready for the next day. And the average man just sits back and watches the men do it. That's what he does. And so he can't come the next day, right? Until he's learnt that he's responsible for his things, at least his things. And also, if he was loving, he would not only choose to be responsible for his things, he would choose to be responsible for other people's things too. Like, when I say responsible, he'd choose to clean the other people's things. If he felt that they were tired or whatever, he would do that as well, right? And he's not tired, so he would do that as well. So, you know, you get to see love in practice. How love looks in practice is the goal. So that's our goal. So that's, for those of you who don't know, that's godsway.net. You will see everything involved with that.
Yeah, and if you are interested in coming out and participating in Humility and Practice Days, there is a tab on that website that says Get Involved.
Yeah.
And then you have prerequisites for coming. There's things you need to do before you come.
Yeah. There's a whole things like you got to do some
safety training.
And get some tools.
Yeah.
Because we made the mistake of providing people with tools. What a mistake that was. Sort of like everybody comes expecting you to provide everything for them. So we said, after a while, we said, you got to provide the tools. Here's a list of what we accept as tools, and you got to go and get them, that kind of thing. And if you don't want to get them, then rent them from somebody, or, you know, hire them or whatever. But this godsway.net also, you'll find on it a constitution for the organisation. The organisation is called God's Way Limited. Mary and I are the founding members of that organisation, and we are not the only members, but the members are people who we have a lot of trust in terms of that they have a pure desire to love, pure desire for truth. And at the moment, the membership is only very small. What is it at the moment? It's probably 2, 3, 4, 5 us, and then probably 3 more other members. 8.
8 or 9 maximum.
Yeah, I can't remember the number.
We're not counting volunteers, are we? So
no,
it's 8.
just 8.
I think 8 at most. 7 maybe.
7 maybe members at the moment. And we don't appoint anybody as a member unless we have a bit more confidence with them that they are going to do things in harmony with God's truth and God's love and so forth. So that's God's Way Limited. We wrote the constitution of that organisation, and if you want to download the constitution, in Australia the constitution is the governing document that governs how the organisation runs. So if you want to see how that organisation runs, that's written in the constitution of the and it's downloadable.
It is under documents on that
website. On the website. If you want to donate to God's Way, everything in God's Way has been donated. So at the moment, God's Way owns 4 properties, but is trying to sell 1, but owns 4 properties, 1,000 acres, and they own a 22-ton excavator, a 22-ton bulldozer, tractor, trailers, house, and a number of other things God's Way owns. And God's Way is a member-based organisation, so God's Way itself owns them. And the reason why we do that is because they are the properties we use to do all the programs on. if that makes sense. So all the programs, the majority of them are run on that property, those properties, or Mary and my own property, which we are gifting, in the process of gifting to God's Way as well. So God's Way Limited is the organisation, and it all runs on gifts. So we have programs like an environmental program running at the moment as well, to environmental recovery. We've purchased over 1,000 varieties of seeds, and we're actually doing large-scale terracing of hills that have been completely destroyed by grazing, cattle grazing and so forth. And trees are growing where there was nothing growing before at all. And this is all happening with donated funds. So if you look at the donations God's Way's received so far, there's $2.5 million worth of donations that it's received. And those have been in the form of properties, sometimes a bit of money to buy something. Also, and it's run totally, nobody in the organisation earns anything from the organisation. Not a single. All the directors of the organisation and all the members do not earn any funds from the organisation at all. Everything's voluntary, right? So even all the people who are permanently full-time, of which there are 3 directors, Eloisa, Cornelius and Phoebe are the directors, and they all have their own websites, and you can donate to them directly to help them live. They live totally off of donations, just like Mary and I do, but they do not earn any money from God's Way organisation at this stage, right? And everybody who works, nobody earns any money from doing what they do either. They all live off of donations, and all of the equipment God's Way has all been donated. Everything's donated. Yeah. So that shows you what's possible if people get together and believe in a cause, right? And at the moment, there's one property we're trying to sell for nearly $1 million, which is Australian, that is, which is called the Environment Centre. So it's a very nice 600-acre property we're trying to get rid of. At the moment, they own 1,000 acres, but we're trying to get rid of a 600-acre property. So 600 of that we want to sell, because the money we raise from that sale, or it would be better if we didn't sell it, if we could just raise enough money, which is about $1 million, to build a hall. We want to build our first hall. And our first hall will be big enough to seat hopefully about 150 people, and we can have regular events there every week. And the events will include things like Mary and I will be there when we're in Australia, but there are other events like the people who are running God's Way will have events to do with the environment and, how to recover land and how to deal with people, and like all sorts of practical events.
Parenting,
education of children.
That's something that's a big passion within the organisation.
Yep.
To do God's Way.
In the end, we would like to run a school in the hall, things like that. And so the hall is sort of the next thing we would like to do in the organisation, but only if we can raise the funds, because everything's donated. So.
One of our dreams is to create an education system, or like a curriculum, if you like, that starts kids with the 5
principles of love.
The 5 basics, love, truth, humility, faith, and action, and to be able to write a curriculum that could be used in any school, but basically focuses kids when they first come in on understanding and learning how to practice those principles, because all of your learning after that point would be so easy. There'd be harmony in classrooms. It'd be a wonderful thing to do. But, something that I think we need to do is write the curriculum and then have the teachers come and pass the
curriculum themselves.
And we need test students. So, adults can be some of those test students as well.
We're not saying it's a school just for children.
No, yeah. But
that would be ageist, wouldn't it?
But wouldn't it be fun to come out and be a part of those early classes? You pass the class, and then you get to be a teacher as well, and you can take that curriculum back to your country with you and start to run those classes. And maybe you might attract some kids into those classes, but you could just run them for adults as well.
Yeah. So to do that, we need sort of a auditorium where people can go to the toilet, like you have here. Basically, very similar to what we have here.
Very similar. Little kitchen, or a medium-sized kitchen.
Somewhere where people can have food and toilets, so you can go to the toilet, and about this kind of size, because you can fit 100 to 120 people in something this size, and maybe a little larger, maybe, and something that that where people can come. Initially, it would probably be open aired. Because in Australia, for 9 months of the year, don't really need walls, really. So, you can run things for 9 months of the year without it being too cold. For you guys, you'd probably come and go, even when our coldest days, you'd probably go, this isn't cold. This is like a cool summer day, that kind of thing. But for us, it's sort of like, there's a bit of wind that comes through. We'd have to do something about that. But there's quite a lot of plans that we've got drawn up for those kind of things. But again, it does depend on people banding together and people wanting to be involved and people sharing their resources, whatever they are, not just money, but time and energy and stuff, into doing it. Because the goal of the God's Way organisation is to share divine truth with the world. That's its primary goal. But when we say with the world, we don't mean like online or anything. We mean with people, face to face.
In practical application in all the different areas of endeavour on Earth, Yeah.
So there's a caretaker residence, which we've already got in one of the properties near to this property. We're building some facilities to collect water, because in Australia, water is a big issue. We need to have a place and be responsible for our own water. So if you have 100 to 150 people coming every week for 3 or 4 days a week, there's a lot of water that's going to be needed. So we need to put those facilities in first. And then once those facilities in, then we can get ourselves started with the work we want to do with it, if that makes sense. Yeah, so that's the goal with that organisation in Australia, but we would like to replicate that on every continent as well. But of course, it needs to happen in one place first. And so it'll be Australia first. That's the area that we have already got. Mary and I have spent probably the past 7 years, since 2016, the organisation was incorporated, so 8 years, just trying to get 3 people who could run the organisation while we're away, basically. Yeah. We've got them. And we meet with them usually you guys were travelling once every 3 weeks or so. We've met up with them and just keep an eye on what's going on and everything. And at the moment they're building a 25 metre by 10 metre water storage shed. And they're doing all the work themselves, the excavator, everything, all themselves. And they've got just a very small team working on that at the moment. And so, and we get pictures. Yeah, in fact, you can see some pictures on the God's Way site. You'll see. If you can sign up for the blog, and they send you regular updates, and you'll see the pictures of what they're working on right now. Yeah. For those of you who've had the experience, it's interesting, isn't it? It's not necessarily good all the time, is it?
I think, Anna, your first day was pretty challenging, wasn't it? It was Mother of Millions, wasn't it? Do you remember? Same, yeah.
Yeah. And you get, and Mary and I usually once a week when we're there, we meet with the team and everything as well. So you get a lot of spiritual instruction in the process as well. So
some of you would have probably listened to some of those recordings, the Humility and Practice Day recordings.
Yeah.
That sort of after lunch we sit around and have a talk.
Yeah. And oftentimes even during the day on the work days we'll have a bit of an extended lunch and discussion or whatever. So that's one area that we've been looking at, and Mary and I have been very involved in that in the last 7 or 8 years. We've collected huge amounts of data in that organisation that's being currently sorted out, because one of the instructions I gave him is I want it sorted by the time I get back home. And so they've already collected about 50 terabytes of data about
videos and photos.
that we've got nobody to help us share it at the moment. So it's all just collected data, and there's not enough manpower to do a lot of the jobs. And so the guys are just focused on getting the basics done until we get the manpower to share more. But it's fascinating, some of the data they've got, because we've got data of recovery of land now over nearly an 8-year period that has happened. And before that, for a 12-year period, the land was completely barren, like dirt. And then it's now into this sort of forest. It's about, I don't know, maybe 6 metres high, a lot of the land now. So it's taken only 8 years to recover a lot of that land. But a lot of hard work, and it's all been documented as well, but not shared. There's a lot of things that are not shared. Every 3 months, they provide a financial update of the organisation, programs, what they're hoping to achieve, what shortfalls there are, what projects are on hold because of there being a shortfall of funds. We have a focus on just keeping the organisation ticking over, and any excess funds other than that are all put into projects. So there's about $60,000 a year that's needed to have the organisation pay its bills, and then after that, everything's projects. Yeah. So that gives you a bit of an idea of what's going on there that Mary and I love. We've been heavily involved in that. For lots of different reasons, because we would like to see this kind of thing with a group of people who are in a state of love themselves, like being constantly at a location where you can go to and learn if you want to go there and learn. And that's sort of the goal, is to have, and we call them learning centres. Yep. So the God's Way learning centres. Learning centres teaching you God's way. Yeah, that's the goal of them. So yeah, and a lot of the people involved have had to learn not their way, but God's way. You know, so sometimes we've said to people, yeah, now you're doing it, you know, Jill's way or whatever, you know, and we're not interested in that. You go home, we want it God's way here, you know, that kind of thing. And we're pretty strict about it, as everybody who's come would know. Yeah. So this is the kind of thing we're focused on. Does that sort of answer your question,
Yeah,
Chris?
thanks a lot. Very much. Thanks.
Yeah. We're very keen on the face-to-face. It's the face-to-face where you learn the most. Watching a video, the problem with watching a video is you can just watch it like a movie without hardly applying anything to self. Like you can think, oh yeah, that's me. Oh yeah, I know that. Oh yeah, I understood that. And I get that in your head. But when you actually you're in a situation, you do realise how much you do not understand about love and about truth and so forth when you're in the situation. So it's very, very beneficial to be in the situation. Yeah. That's why we want to create these locations, so people have the opportunity to be in the situation. Now, there's a question from behind, if you're still... I've already answered. Yep. G'day. Charlotte?
Do you already know which months you're going to come to Europe?
Yes, we
don't.
Well, we're thinking.
Yeah. It's a changing
proposition, because as we go on this trip, we're learning things, right, as to what we are probably going to need ourselves. We're learning about, you know, how much we can handle in front of people versus how much time we need by ourselves and things like that. But at this stage, we're thinking we would arrive sometime late May and be in Europe from May and June. So Europe and UK, May, June. And then probably sometime early July, go across to the States, and July, August. And then if we have to go south to Brazil, September, and then home is what we're thinking.
A lot of it will depend, though, on... First, we kind of have to put together a bit of an itinerary, but then we have to find venues. We have to find...
it's a hard work.
The funds, yeah. Hopefully it'll be simpler if we have less stops, but it's not real.
This one took us 6 months to plan.
Yeah, hopefully it won't
every day. Mary and I were working on it every day.
Yeah. Because there was so many venues and so much accommodation and so many flights and all those things, it took a long time. But we are hoping that it'll be in the warmer months, May,
Yeah.
June, July, August, but it will just depend a little bit. Yeah.
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 But it will start in Europe again next year.
Yes, well, we've got two options. One is to travel the opposite direction, so we go to Americas first and then across to here, and the other is to travel this way around. We sort of prefer this way around, so at this stage we are thinking, May, June would be late May, might be June, July actually. Here.
This is what I mean. We
And so we can't say for firm at this stage,
Yeah.
and a lot's going to be dependent upon us finding venues, because that's been a big problem that we've had on this trip. We often go through, like in Brussels, it
Lots
was
of venues, yeah.
close to 100 venues we went through in Brussels to find one venue that we could use. And there were all sorts of trouble and issues, and a lot of it, like a third of the venues in Brussels didn't want us there because of who we are. And then the others were to do with price. The price were for us like extreme, like 11,000 euros a day type prices. Which is quite,
We can't go back to Brussels because obviously
No.
it's a very sort of diplomatic, corporate kind of market there. So we need to just be a bit wise about where
so
we
the venue
choose.
for 50 people costs us 3,000 euros.
And also, I wouldn't choose these village halls again that we've used this time, probably not because there's anything wrong with the halls, but because we're very aware that you guys, most of you have actually had to travel quite a bit to get here.
Yeah.
Maybe not. What do you guys feel? You have to hire a car, find accommodation.
Find accommodation
How many of you've come from overseas this time?
overseas.
Yeah,
Quite pricey for
yes, from
overseas.
your other parts of Europe, like take
'Cause
a
you gotta
flight.
travel.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So I'm still looking for places that are sort of central,
More nearer.
But
major
obviously,
centre.
we love being in the countryside, and it feels more like us. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
these.
So we got these. Mary and I have got to work out some things about
Yes.
what we want,
Yeah,
but also finding venues. If we stay in a place for longer, we'd probably like for a couple of weeks to hire a venue rather than just a couple of days. And a lot of venues, village halls don't let you do that because they've got other events happening during the week and so forth.
Yeah.
It was really hard finding venues in the UK because there were other events going on inside the venue, and they didn't want, we have to leave our gear set up and everything because it takes time to do all that. So we had to make some decisions about, like, in the end, a lot of the venues were just like, who would have us, and could we leave our gear there, and is it still reasonably close enough to a central location where people can get accommodation, and so forth. So, and where we could get accommodation that's suitable as well. Yeah. So there's a lot of things we consider setting up events, and so we are not certain is the answer to your question, but we are hopeful that it will be something like here, July, August, probably.
we do prefer.
Maybe May, June.
Yeah, we prefer Europe first, don't we? Because the jet lag is better when you come that direction.
When you come that direction, yeah.
Yeah.
It only takes us a couple of days to get over jet lag coming this
if
direction.
that.
If you go the other direction, it's a lot more.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But as soon as we know, I'll let
We'll
you
let you
know,
know.
so you can plan your
Well,
life.
I should say Mary has, many of you may not know, Mary has her blog, which is sort of like a blog come website.
Well, it's really our update location at this point.
It's our update location if the website's not updating.
Which
So-
has been a while.
So
But
it's-
most of you probably would have heard about this trip there, I would say, or I don't know how these things get
Yeah,
shared. But
and we will be putting our events at event.divinetruth.com, but we're thinking of changing the Humanitics,
yeah, the hosting.
because that links to Humanitics at the moment, but we're not sort of happy with how that manages our bookings. So we're still looking for appropriate hosting thing that allows for free events without us having to pay commissions or something like that, with regard to events. But that's always going to be the link to the events. Event.divinetruth.com. That's where we'll let you know about the events that Mary and I are directly involved in a formal manner, I suppose, because there's a lot of things we're directly involved in, but
Informally
with
or in
God's Way or whatever. So God's Way I rubbed out that, didn't I? So godsway.net is where we're involved in a lot of things there as well. So, and they keep people updated. You can register to receive a regular update from there. They do regular updates. Mary and I don't. We do updates when we have the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which when we're traveling is not very often.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could you remind us of your donation address as well?
Oh, the donation address?
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, it's just donation.
No, it's donate.
Oh, donate, sorry.
Yeah.
I don't even know my address. Yeah, it's donate.divinetruth.com, which links to our website on the donation page. Yep. Yeah, so that's donating to Mary and myself and to our work. Godsway.net, there's a donation page there as well. That donates to all the God's Way projects. And then we also have on our website, if you look under the donation page, the donations to others, I think it's called, you will see people like who are working for free full-time are listed there who are involved in God's Way. So that's Eloisa, Cornelius, and Phoebe.
And there might be a couple other people.
There might be a couple other, I don't know if there is, that are listed there. And if you click on those, they will take you to links to their site as well if you want to donate to them. It's really good if you can donate to them because they live totally off the donations. And also they're essential to us because they're the ones who are looking after God's Way when we're away. So, so those are the main things. For donate.divinetruth.com, that pays for our events. So donations we receive there, like paid for this hall, paid for our accommodation while we're travelling, paid for our flights, paid for us getting up north, paid for us getting to Europe, paid for us to get to the US and Canada. And a lot of times we don't receive enough donations to pay for these trips, but one person or two people donate a lump sum that then helps us out. So like in Europe, we looked like we were going to lose probably 10 or 15,000 euros because of lack of donations. But then one person who thanks Nicholas for that, got us out of that trouble by giving us some funds. And that's what often happens. Yeah. So, we just play it by ear really as to what happens with regard to donations. And sometimes we don't cover the event at all. So in some of the events we've been to, we haven't covered any of our expenses at all. And other times we get to cover more, and so we obviously catch up, Yeah. And that's sort of how it works when you live by donations. You don't know where the next donation's coming from. Yeah.
I suppose we should say that, we are now looking for venues and accommodation
for next year.
Starting now, we're looking.
Portugal
and probably
in and around Porto.
Yep.
In Portugal.
And probably here in the UK somewhere.
Yeah.
And
somewhere around a major centre where people can fly into. Yeah.
But what we would be looking for is somewhere where we can stay for a month that's reasonably affordable, that has a large living area where we could have smaller groups of people that we might want to invite over.
Yeah.
That is nearby to a hall
nearby the venue,
similar size to this, that we could leave stuff.
Well, we probably need one bigger than this, but anyway.
Depending.
Yeah.
Depending on which continent we're on.
Yeah.
So this is also for Canada and the US. And we would want to be able to have the ability to leave things set up for a period of a week or two, which means that we would have to be able to hire the venue for that period of time. That's usually the biggest ask. It's costly sometimes, depends on how much the venue is in regular use. It doesn't have to be a formal venue if it's got lighting and power and, that we could just have a setup. It doesn't have to be flash, but it does have to be.
We all meet outside.
It does have to be weatherproof. Yeah. Yeah. So if anyone hears of anything, let me know.
Yeah. Obviously, in different countries too, you can get away with being outside versus other countries. So here, obviously, you don't know when it's going to rain generally. So obviously, we're going to need to be in somewhere rather than outside somewhere.
And something that's very important to us is having adequate toilet facilities, because otherwise it's quite interruptive we like to have 10 or 15 minute breaks so that everyone can use the loo. So.
Imagine if you've got 200 people and there's only 5 toilets. It's not going to be a 10-minute break. It's going to be a half an hour break every time. And so, we need to have a good proportion of toilets versus the hall size so that people can get through the toilet process and come back quicker.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's what we're planning to do. Mary and I are also planning to do some sharing online at different times, but only it's not going to happen very often, obviously, because we're traveling a lot, right? But only with groups of people generally, not with individuals. But if a group of people get together and go, we'd like to have a chat, with you, well, if we can arrange it when we're back home, we will try to arrange it. We can't do it while we're traveling. The internet, every place we go to is variable internet and variable, hard to set up, so it's not really possible while we're traveling.
Yeah, but what Jay's referring to there is like having live video calls with small groups who might want assistance with their stuff.
Yeah. Anyway, that's our plans for the moment. We'll see how we go.
Let's see how they pan out.
Doing them. Yeah. Anyway, it's pretty late now, and Mary and I need to start packing up. So
thank you, everyone, for your attendance.
Thank you.
Let me thank people first.
Okay.
I just had a few things just to thank people, that's all.
What do you want to say?
That's all right. I just wanted to thank everyone for their attendance. Thank you for your participation. Thank you again to the people who helped to find the venue. So that was Amy predominantly. Where is she? Thanks, Amy.
Thank you, Amy.
Yep. And thank you to the crew who've helped with pack up and set up and pack up in both the north and now here.
Yep.
And thanks for the supply of the equipment. We really appreciate it. It's made a big difference.
Yeah.
So thanks, guys.
And thank you for all the videographers, because later on you may benefit from their videos.
Yeah.
So it's good that they've done that. All right. Well, we're going to have to love you and leave you, right?
Anna, yes.
Anna? Yeah.
Cool.
Dinner at the pub across the road here.
Compass Inn, which is over there, isn't it? Yeah.
Where
Are they prepared for all of you? The hot chips for everyone.
That's tomorrow, is it?
No, now.
Oh, tonight. Oh, no. Okay. If you want to do that, there you go. Yep.
Alrighty.
Yep. Indeed. We will do for you. Thanks for asking. Yes. We've been passing on everybody's the group say hello to the next group. So we have been doing that. And a lot of people in Australia are saying, say hello to you guys. So consider yourself said hello to.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll do. Yeah, we'll do when we get back. Sure. Yeah. No worries, guys. Thank you.
Hang on.
You can help us out too, by the way. If you want to help pack up the chairs, I think they stack 5 high. Was that the height? They'll be moved back into the corner at the back.
And Victoria?
Lift to North
Lift
London.
to North London, available there with Victoria in the lovely shirt there.
No worries. Good. Yeah, our donation box is just on the way out. The red box. No worries.
No worries.